ever get the feeling that, spiritual growth, it isn't exactly a straight line.
Yeah, total.
It's more like, a winding road.
It's bumpy.
Yeah. Bumpy, you're right. Lots of twists and turns. And that's what we're diving into today with Pedro Elias's piece called Straw Suits, Golden Hearts.
Okay.
From his book, Spiritual Reflections for a New World.
I love this.
And he talks about these two phases
Yeah.
of spiritual awakening, which he calls the first and second waves.
Okay.
And get this, he uses John the Baptist and Jesus as an example.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I see what he's doing there.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, using such a familiar story.
Right.
Yeah. Even if someone's not, religious, they probably know the basics, right?
Exactly.
Uses that as a way to explain these like phases that we all go through, almost like a spiritual coming of age story, but for like humanity as a whole.
Okay, so let's break down these waves a little bit.
Okay.
Elias says the first wave, this was big from 1988 to 1992.
Right.
That was kind of their moment.
Yeah.
It's like they were the ones planting the seeds,
The pioneers.
Yeah, like starting new spiritual communities, bringing in these fresh new ideas. Did you feel that energy back then?
Elias compares it to a nuclear explosion of energy, which, it sounds kind of intense.
It does.
But, if you think about it, it was a time of huge shifts in how we even thought about, like, spirituality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of people, they were probably exploring all these new ideas and feeling that pull, that energy.
A total energy surge.
Yeah.
But then, and I think we all kind of remember this, things kind of calmed down.
Right.
It's like that initial boom, it settled. And that's where I think this whole John the Baptist comparison, it really comes in.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think he's getting at there?
Well, John the Baptist, he wasn't meant to be the main act, right?
Right.
He prepped the way.
But he knew.
Forerunner.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
He knew his role was to eventually step aside for something bigger.
Right.
And that's the thing I think about any kind of first wave, knowing when to make space for what comes next.
Yeah.
And Elias actually suggests that in that first wave, they struggled with this.
Yeah, like holding on
I see.
a little too tightly to their roles,
Right.
as the spiritual trailblazers.
Exactly.
Which makes me think about John baptizing Jesus. It's almost like he was saying, okay, my part's done. Time for the real deal. And that must take incredible humility.
It does.
To step back like that.
And that is the challenge, isn't it? For anyone, right?
Well, yeah.
Who's been at something for a while, to recognize when it's time for that new wave, to kind of take the lead,
yeah.
without clinging to the past.
Yeah.
That's how we evolve. But to be fair to the first wave, Elias, he does say that many of them did make that transition gracefully.
Oh, that's good.
They understood that true growth often means stepping out of the spotlight.
It's like they laid the groundwork, and now it's time for a new generation to build something amazing on top of it.
Okay, so that brings us to the second wave.
Which, this is where it gets really interesting, because Elias describes their path as wandering through a desert.
Oh, wow.
A time of questioning,
Yeah.
feeling a little lost, unsure.
Yeah.
And when you connect that to the bigger picture, it really suggests a different kind of awakening. One that's quieter, more internal. It's like they've gone through the fire.
Yeah.
They've questioned everything.
Get more.
And now they're emerging with this deeper understanding, ready for something more.
Yeah, and I bet you, listening right now, you might even relate to that feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're in this collective desert, just searching for meaning.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of our time, I think. And Elias, he's saying, this feeling of being a bit lost, that's no accident.
Oh, interesting.
This is the second wave's moment,
Okay.
It's their time to really step into their purpose.
Okay.
But it's not easy getting there.
So we've got these two waves, each on their own path, right?
Right.
But what makes the second wave different besides the whole wandering the desert thing? What are they bringing to the table?
Well, Elias, he talks about faith being a big one.
Yeah.
And not,
Not blind faith.
No, not blind faith at all, but this really deep trust in the journey.
Yeah.
Even when things feel uncertain.
Okay.
Like when you commit to a spiritual practice,
Yeah.
even if you don't have all the answers, you deep down there's something more. And then there's this incredible perseverance. The second wave, they've faced their doubts head on,
Yeah.
They wrestled with all the tough questions, and given them this whole other level of strength.
They're not afraid of the hard stuff.
No, they're not afraid of the tough stuff at all.
And that's where this whole idea of like a karmic burden comes in, right? Like they're here to help heal something bigger than themselves. Elias even says they're here to help create a new earth, which is, I mean, that's a pretty big job.
It is a big job.
Yeah.
And yet that's the energy that Elias feels they carry, you know? It's less about just focusing on like personal enlightenment and more about how their own growth.
Yeah.
It like ties into something much larger.
Right. It's like they're graduating from spiritual self-help to actually helping to heal the world around them.
Exactly.
And I think this is where it gets really, really interesting for anyone who's listening who feels connected to that second wave energy.
Yeah.
Because it's not just some abstract idea, right? It's like, okay, I feel this calling, now what?
Exactly. And that's where Elias brings it back to each of us.
Okay.
Talking about the Baptist and Jesus within. He's like this whole first wave, second wave thing. It's happening inside of you too, you know?
Oh, I love that. So it's not enough to just think about this on a global level.
Right.
We've got to see how it plays out in our own lives.
Exactly. Think of the Baptist within as that part of us that's, you know, always analyzing.
Yeah.
Trying to figure things out. Maybe even a little bit attached to being right, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's that voice of the intellect.
Right.
Which is, I mean, it's important. We need that. But it can also keep us stuck in our heads instead of leading from our hearts.
And that's like that straw suit that Elias talks about,
Yeah.
that feeling of needing to prove ourselves, to build up this external image, instead of just being.
Instead of just being.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's that Jesus within, that part of us that's, you know, pure empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
It's not about what we know or what we've achieved.
It's about how we show up.
It's about embodying, you know, love and kindness just in our everyday lives.
It's like we all have this golden heart inside.
We do.
But it gets buried under all the mental noise and the ego trips and all of that.
It does. It really does.
So how do we quiet that inner Baptist and let our own, like, Jesus within shine through? How do we bridge that gap?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And Elias, you know, he doesn't give us a step-by-step guide or anything.
Of course not.
But I think that image of John baptizing Jesus, it speaks volumes.
It does.
You know, it's not about one being better than the other.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we need both.
So it's about surrendering to something bigger, realizing like we're not the be all and end all of the universe.
Yeah, I think it's more about humility, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just recognizing that we don't have all the answers.
Right.
And that sometimes, you know, that real strength, it comes from letting go of the need to be in control.
Mm.
It's about finding that balance between the head and the heart.
Mm. It makes you wonder, like, in any given moment, what's motivating us? You know?
Yeah.
Are we stuck in that straw suit of ego trying to prove something?
Yeah.
Or are we coming from a place of, you know, genuine service and love?
And it's not always easy to tell, is it?
Yeah.
But I think even just asking ourselves that question, that's a step, you know,
It is.
towards cultivating that golden heart.
It's like we're constantly checking in,
Yeah.
right? Like, okay, am I building myself up right now, or am I lifting others up?
Right.
It's that inner work, and it's definitely ongoing.
Totally. And you know what? It's messy.
Oh yeah.
It's not about being, you know, this perfectly balanced spiritual being all the time. It's
Right.
about noticing when we're off kilter
Yeah.
and then, you know, just course correcting
Yeah.
with compassion for ourselves too.
Oh, for sure.
Elias isn't giving us like a destination, you know. It's more like he's giving us a compass for the journey, which I kind of like.
I do too. And the beautiful thing he's highlighting here is that we're not alone in this.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier about how both, like the first and the second wave, they're both essential.
Absolutely. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. The second wave, they're building on what the first wave started, right?
Yeah.
Just like any movement. You have the pioneers, they clear the path,
Right.
and then others come in with a whole new perspective.
Right. Building on that foundation.
Each one is like critical to the process
Totally.
of how we evolve as like, you know, a collective.
Yeah. So someone listening right now might be thinking, okay, so which wave am I in? Like, does it even matter? What do you think about that?
You know what I find so fascinating is that it's not about like labeling ourselves. It's about recognizing that both of these energies, they exist within all of us.
Mm.
Like we all have that questioning, seeking side.
Yeah.
And then that part of us that wants to like step up and make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
The key is finding that sweet spot where they work together. you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's like Elias is giving us this whole new lens to look at our own lives, our own like spiritual growth.
Yeah, totally.
As we wrap up our deep dive into straw suits, golden hearts, what's the one thing that you hope listeners really take away from this?
That this idea of a golden heart, it's not, it's not some far-off concept.
Right.
It's about those small daily choices that we make.
Yeah.
To choose love, to choose compassion, to choose service.
It's those little moments.
It's about quieting that ego just long enough
Yeah.
to hear that little whisper of something truer,
Yes.
something more aligned with who we really are.
It's about letting go of those straw suits that we think define us.
Yes.
And embracing that genuine, heart-centered way of being in the world.
I love that.
Me too. Well, on that note, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into those big, beautiful questions.
Yes.
Until next time.